We're going to talk about building character through sports. Okay, and I created this PowerPoint from the article from week 5. So to me, sportsmanship is your character in the game. It represents you, your team, and your coach. So what you do on the field is not only representing how you kind of see the world or your values, it also represents your team, what they represent, and also your coach. So you have to think about those 3 people. I mean, also you could add in your parents, your family, but really when it comes down to it, it represents you, your team, and your coach, especially at that given point in time. Okay? When you are playing a game, you make decisions based on your values, which affect your persona. Playing fair, respecting the opponent, being responsible for your actions, caring for others, fairness to your team and opponent, and being a good citizen are the standards for being a person of character. So taking apart all those words straight from our book that we have, which is Successful Coaching in Martin's, respecting the opponents and playing fair. Obviously, playing fair for some people is like easy to do, and then there's also people that are always kind of pushing the limits. So maybe that's, pulling on someone's shirt when you're going for a 50-50 ball in soccer and you pull on someone's shirt, but like the ref can't see you. That's not playing fair, but so you're kind of cheating a little bit. Playing fair is not, maybe sliding at someone to hurt them. So that wouldn't be that fair. Respect. So, if there's a coin toss or like when you meet captains, that you respect them, you're not, looking down at their shoes or looking over their head, or especially with officials too. Obviously, you want to respect the officials, even if the official, maybe you two don't get along, maybe for some reason you feel like he's against you, you still got to respect the officials. And you have to make sure that your players always respect the officials too, because if they get in trouble on the field, that can affect, your team, because they might not be able to play a following game, especially if they do anything that's disrespectful to referees, okay, and opponents. Being responsible for your actions as a coach and team, you want to make sure that when you do something wrong or when you make a mistake, that you maybe apologize, maybe you help somebody up. If you're at fault, you admit you're at fault. If you were offsides and you knew you were offsides, don't complain about it. Just, especially as a player, you want to make sure that you're responsible for everything that you do on the field and off the field. Okay. Caring for others, sportsmanship and caring go a long way. So that means that if, obviously an opponent of yours is injured, you want to make sure that they get the care that they can get, maybe asking them if they're okay. Caring for others, we want to make sure that, your opponents understand that you're not there just to compete. You are there as a good, human being, and that you're not going to maybe, cheat if you want to. Maybe you have the ability to, because you're a high skilled player and you can get away with such things. But if you care about the other team and the sport itself, you're not going to do those things. Okay. So these are all different standards for being a good person of character, and you can tell who the high character individuals are on your team based in practice. You'll see how they work with each other, or how they share or not share the ball. You'll see, whether or not they're listening to you, the coach, or if they're kind of, not listening to you or not respecting you. So here's a question, when did you first recognize character on the field or court? So when was the first time you kind of recognized like someone that had like high morale or ethics on the court, and you kind of respected that, or you at least understood like, oh, that's sportsmanship?
I feel like being really vocal and like saying, good job, or like good catch, good pass, like it's like always helpful. Mm-hmm. And like always like helping people out, or like not being like rude player, and not being like, especially like feel like know it all, that you know you're a good player, but then you kind of shove it in.
Can you think of a sports time that we might all know about in history that has occurred where we've recognized sportsmanship on the field?
I can't think of any right off the top of my head.
What about for you? What do you think of when you think of sportsmanship?
Like you said, like just respecting everybody around you as a coach or as a player or even as officials. Because I mean, I'm sure officials get pretty mad too.
Did you play sports?
Yeah.
Did you feel like you respected the officials, or were you kind of what sport?
I played volleyball, softball, and basketball.
Okay.
So
What type of coaches did you have?
most of my coaches, like for basketball, especially, pretty respectful. So like screaming when I go up to BS call or something like that.
Right.
They would like just call over the official and say, "Hey, why was that a foul? And why wasn't it a foul?" Or something like that.
Right. So, we're going to learn a lot from our coaches, about character, because our character as a coach is going to represent hopefully our team and the standards we want to apply on the field. So we have what we call cheaters in the game. And when people cheat to gain an unfair advantage, others lose out on what was rightfully theirs. For example, in the 1976 Montreal Olympic Games, numerous athletes from the German Democratic Republic, or GDR, won medals, including 11 out of the 13 in women's swimming. After the fall of the Berlin Wall, it was revealed that many athletes from the GDR had been given steroids, which had been banned in the Olympic Games since 1974. Although no drug tests for steroids were conducted until 1984, because of the use of steroids, the female swimmers whose performances were not drug enhanced were cheated of the honor of winning gold medals. Okay. Now here's a question for you. Have you ever cheated in sports, and how did that make you feel? So did you ever do anything that gave you an unfair advantage? And if you did, how did that make you feel? Okay, so just think about that maybe back when you're playing sports or anything that you did that you knew you weren't supposed to do, and then how did that make you feel? And then have you ever seen or heard of an opponent or teammate cheat, and how did that make you feel? So you can choose either one question to answer. Just to go back on the steroids epidemic is, as a coach, obviously we have to make sure that we don't condone the use of steroids. We know that steroids can lead to many other problems. It can lead to dependency. It can lead to aggressive behavior from athletes. Steroids and testosterone can alter your endocrine system, and when your testosterone fluctuates from such high to low levels, it can have detrimental effects on your human physiology. So if you don't have any education or background with steroids, and someone on your team or some high school players or college students are distributing it, obviously you want to make sure that there is no way that they can get away with that. They can't distribute, they can't use these types of methods in sports. As coaches, we have to make sure that our players and athletes don't do anything like performance enhancing drugs. And we know that there's just too many detrimental effects, negative effects that can happen. Okay, so what about for cheating for y'all? So have you ever seen or heard of an opponent team or a teammate cheat, or on the TV, or have you ever cheated maybe in sports, and how did that make you feel? What do you think about as far as cheaters go, or can you give us an example of maybe how cheating has affected you or another team?
So when I was in high school, we played this team called North Guilford, and we were public schools, so you're not supposed to recruit. So they would go around, say, in North Carolina, recruiting people, and then they would have these houses that had like an assistant coach or something in it, and they would just pile a bunch of their players in those houses, and they would live there, and that would be their address or something weird like that.
So they're living somewhere illegally
Yeah.
to just play on a team.
Yeah,
which is basically cheating. Obviously, you're not allowed, I mean,
yeah.
you're doing something to have an unfair advantage.
They did that until like my sophomore year, when they finally got caught doing it. You can tell that they had been doing it, because all their teams just down except for
Nice. That's a good example. What about for you? Have you ever seen or heard it?
In high school, sometimes our coach would tell us like if we got shoved, kind of make it a little bit more dramatic.
Okay, so make it look, so fall a little bit. Okay, so yeah, that is a definite form of cheating, yeah. So giving yourself an unfair advantage, right, on purpose. So, yeah, as a coach, we were never told, when I played soccer, we were never told to, fall down if you got hit or anything like that. But I know that there are teams that you can tell, you touch somebody and they just jump and you're like, okay. So good. All right. So cheaters, a cheating culture is ubiquitous in society and sports because the benefits have come to outweigh the risk of penalty. Coaches, athletes, and sport managers may have convinced themselves that there's nothing wrong with cheating for personal benefit. Their value systems may have become callous to the harm done to the victims of their actions, or they simply may not care that they are trampling on the rights of others. In a winner-take-all environment in life and sports, the ethical value of the right and wrong, as shown through action, seemingly is less important. So, obviously, your value systems can become calloused as you progress in cheating, or if your personal belief is that there's nothing wrong with it, then it's going to be a systematic decline of, the way success should be written, right? So we want to make sure that we're fair as coaches and we're not trying to cheat, because one, you're going to have a negative effect not only on yourself, but your athletes, your sport managers, okay? So you represent a whole team culture, and you don't want to be known as the coach that does that. So John Wooden, building character, said a leader, and we talked about John Wooden, he won 10 out of 12 national championships in basketball, so one of the most successful coaches ever alive, and he really talked about character as the most important aspect of a team. And this is what he said: a leader, particularly a teacher or a coach, notice how he said teacher or coach, so it's basically one and the same thing. You're teaching people not only to be better physically, but you want them to be better socially, so you want them to care for each other. You also want them to have academic performance, so we want them cognitively to be smarter. He said particularly a teacher or coach has the most powerful influence on those he or she leads, perhaps more than anyone outside the family. Therefore, it is the obligation of that leader, teacher, or coach to treat such responsibility as a grace concern. So he's adding teachers, leaders, and coaches. So actually, on my name of my new podcast is Teachers, Leaders, and Coaches. It's like TLC. He's got leaders, teachers, and coaches. So maybe I'll do that LTC. I don't know. But I'm going to interview leaders, teachers, and coaches on that podcast. So I think that's pretty cool. So he says, therefore, it is the obligation of that leader, teacher, or coach to treat such responsibility as a grace concern. I consider it a sacred trust, helping to mold character, instill productive principles and values, and provide a positive example to those under my supervision. Okay? You always want to try to set a positive example of the people that observe you, especially in the public eye. So, for example, everything, as a teacher or a coach or a leader is obviously going to be public, right? Even in the private setting, you're a bank owner, a lot of people are going to know you. The public's going to know you, right? If you're a leader in any field, especially a coach and a teacher, you're going to be in the public eye. So you're constantly being judged, you're constantly being critiqued. So you have to kind of set high values and high principles for yourself. Otherwise, it's easy to see what leaders are going to slowly deteriorate. So You want to set a positive example to those under your supervision. So that's something that Wooden Jameson said in 1997. Bill Bradley. So he's a 3-time All-American at Princeton University. He's an Olympic gold medalist, 2-time NBA championship with the New York Knicks, and a member of the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. Was also a Rhodes Scholar and United States Senator. So thinking about success, what did this successful person, you think about an athlete and the chances of becoming a professional athlete, the chances of becoming a successful athlete, the chances of becoming an Olympic athlete, and then becoming something after sports. So yes, it's one thing to be an athlete, right? I mean, it's a really hard, really not easy to become an athlete, right? You have to have the physical gifts. You have to be physically, right? Ready for the team, ready for the play, ready to play. Socially, you have to know how to lead. Cognitively, you have to make the right decisions on the field. Those 3 domains you have to have. Then you need to have good coaches, okay? So if you can become a successful athlete, become a successful and Olympic champion, and also a senator, you know something about success. Okay, Bradley, in values of the game discussion, passion, discipline, selflessness, respect, perspective, courage, leadership, responsibility, resilience, and imagination as essential to character development and living a life of character. Okay, so passion. How much passion do you have to teach? How much passion do you have to coach? Discipline. How are you going to discipline yourself as a coach or as a leader? Selflessness, obviously giving more than taking. Respecting, obviously respecting people's time, respecting people's attention. Perspective, having different perspectives, trying not to be biased and having a one-sided approach. Okay, seeing individuals as unique. Courage, like having the courage to say something in front of people that maybe you're not used to saying because you feel uncomfortable, you feel like you're going to get judged, you feel like you're going to get backlash, but it's the right thing. So sometimes the right thing to do is usually the hardest thing to do, right? Maybe it is like saying good job to a player that just beat you in the national championship. Maybe you have a little bit of courage to say, humiliate yourself a little bit, right? So courage is the really selflessness. Leadership, obviously, you have to be able to lead when times get tough. As a coach, as a player, as a teacher, when COVID happened, you have to bring up your responsibility game. You have to bring up your performance. You have to communicate more. You have to give up a little bit of time to be a good leader. Leadership is a lonely road sometimes. Sometimes you're up late or you're up very early trying to get things done, okay? And that's because, you're responsible. So responsibility, knowing your obligations, having, like we talked about, a to-do list and being responsible for getting that to-do list done. One, you're responsible because that is the health of your human nature. If you don't have goals, you don't have tiny little to-do list goals each day, what are you actually getting done? If you're not setting goals out each day and saying, this is my A, B, C, D, E, I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, then I'm gonna go to class, this is how I'm gonna use my time, I'm gonna use time, and I'm going to use it effectively, okay? Resilience. So resilience is being able to withstand pressure. So being able to not fold under pressure, not getting too high when you win and not getting too low when you lose. And there's so many great analogies for that. So, it doesn't matter, the game or the situation. We want to make sure that we're controlling our emotions because, there'll be times when there'll be greater games and we need that emotion to be there then, okay? And imagination is essential to character development. So allowing your players to be creative, imaginative. Sometimes as a teacher, you're using rubrics for some things and then not using rubrics for another thing, because sometimes rubrics can, make them less creative, and so sometimes taking away those rubrics sometimes. So allowing them to think about what they would respond to as opposed to telling them how they should respond. So building character, parents, teachers, and coaches must realize that what they say and do has significant impact on how athletes behave. Okay? In order to develop character through sports, parents, teachers, and coaches must teach athletes what character is, what it looks like, and how to live lives based on values. So who's a high character person in your life that you know, and describe one of those characteristics of that individual that you can think about. Like, who's a high character person, like as a coach or a leader that maybe you grew up with, or today, or maybe you're thinking about through pop media or anything that you want to think about. Like, who would be a strong character person, you think?
I'd say, I saw Steve Kerr, and the way he talks about Stephen Curry, it's just like he's really motivating. Did you see that video on that?
Who is that?
Steve Kerr, he's like the Golden Warriors, coach.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the Michael Jordan one or something else?
I think it's the Stephen Curry one.
Is it? How long is it?
It's short. He was just like really motivating to him, and he was just talking about like how he, it might not be showing up on this whole way right now, but.
Is it a YouTube?
I think it was on Twitter. I'm not 100% sure.
Let's see if we can find it.
But like he just has like even when you're losing, like it's very like positive and just trying to like lift up his athletes rather than like bringing them down. Which like from experience, I think that's really hard for coaches sometimes. It's like they obviously
You said Steve Kerr.
Yeah. ERR, I think.
And who?
Stephen Curry.
It's, oh, there we go.
I think there's like a video about the way he was just being really motivated to him. I don't know.
Think it's anything on here?
It could be the 1 minute and 9 second one. I think that might have been one.
Everything is game. Game. Also game. Definitely game. Game. Game.
Is he one of your favorite players?
No, not necessarily, but I just thought it was a really cool video to kind of relate to this class.
It's a pretty good physical position to be in. Right? All right, what about for you?
I think Coach K.
Anything that comes out when you think about it?
I mean, if you look at the players that have played past years and how close they are to Coach K and how much they still look and respect him.
Mm-hmm.
And like they have, and Coach K's been doing a lot lately with everything going on.
Oh yeah, for a BLM.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like one of the first coaches to like just say like his BLM speech and just like was really compassionate about it. And that's Coach K. He's usually the first kind of person to do that kind of stuff. And he's one of the most successful coaches too, so it kind of goes hand in hand. Parents, teachers, and coaches must model, show, and demonstrate what character is by setting examples. Modeling character is far more effective than is talking about it. So when I think about character, I think about discipline, and I think how disciplined my dad is growing up. Like he'd wake up at the same time every single day. eat breakfast, go to work, and come back. And it was like this clockwork, right? And he did it for 30 years. And I just think, wow, that is discipline, because my life's a little bit different. I have a different lifestyle than my father. His was more strict, like 9 to 5, right? So, as a teacher, you're either going to be 7 to 3 if you're elementary, or you're going to be 8 to 4 at a high school. If you're a trainer or a coach, you might be a little bit more sporadic. You might have clients in the morning and then clients in the evening, and then a little bit off in the middle of the day. Mine, I get to kind of self-direct a little bit more, which is nice, but sometimes it changes. So my schedule is always changing. Now, I learned discipline from my father, like I said. What did you learn from one of your parents?
Responsibility is a really big one. Just kind of being responsible for yourself and not making excuses, like no matter like what happens.
Responsibility.
Yeah.
Can you give any other examples?
Like honesty, I guess. Like,
Okay.
they don't really
Your parents really want you to be honest?
Yeah, even if it's my fault, like they want me to state it out.
Are you pretty honest with your parents, you feel like?
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah. What about for you?
Honestly, honesty definitely.
Parents are pretty honest? Yeah, just want you to be honest.
Really want me to be honest.
They just want to know.
Yeah.
It's not that they want you to be honest, they just want to know everything, right? And you're just like, I don't want you to know everything.
And then, probably courage.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta be, you have to have courage to be trustworthy too. Like, you have to be like, okay, I might tell you something and you might not like it, but I have the courage to at least tell you, So it takes courage. Yeah, definitely. Courage is hard, right? Courage is one of those, really, if you want to think about character, people that have a lot of courage, I think, have the highest amount of character. Because those are the people that are the ones that are taking bullets for people, right? Those are the people that have the courage to stick up for somebody who can't maybe speak up for themselves, right? So to ensure character is learned, parents, teachers, and coaches must consistently reinforce and praise the behaviors of athletes who are demonstrating character-based behavior. So, like we talked about, notice the good in your players, try not to notice the bad in your players. Like, you could go around all day and be like, oh, you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't sit like that. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. Or you could be like, oh, I like the way you're sitting, or I like the way, you're moving on the field, instead of, you might want to try doing this. Instead, catch them doing the good choices, because a lot of the times they are doing the good thing. So, okay, I noticed that you are extra separated in the classroom. That's good. Okay, I'm glad that you're not right next to each other. So that would be something that I could say, kind of recognize what y'all did, even though you might not have even thought about it. When these values are integrated to how sports are played, athletes will develop their morale, reasoning abilities, and show morale and courage by standing up for what is right. So if your players start standing up for what is right, they're going to do that as they get older. They're going to teach that to their kids, and their kids are going to hopefully show those values. And so it's like we talked about, courage, the standing up for what is right as a coach is probably the most important, because everyone's eyes are on you. So you need to have you'll have a lot of courage moments as a coach, especially during games when maybe you have to have a little courage to take a player off the field because you think they're injured. Otherwise, you could win the game with them in, but you might want to take them out even though you might lose the game. So you might have to have courage, knowing that you're standing up for what is right, as opposed to letting that player go out in the field, maybe having a brain injury, maybe they didn't even have a chance, or did they have a chance to be a pro athlete, but even those chances of becoming successful after being a pro athlete are still very slim. We know that pro athletes, a lot of them have bankruptcy. So, I'm sure you've heard of just pro athletes losing all of their money. So just because you become a pro athlete doesn't mean you are successful, right? What is success, right? Success is knowing that you've done everything that you could in the time that you had to do it, right? So that is kind of a John Wooden approach. So roots So ROOT, okay? If you are talking to your coach, players about character development, you say, all right, we're gonna talk about our roots. Okay, our roots are what? Our roots are what support us. Roots are in a tree, the most important aspect of the tree. Our roots are our family history, right? But in this character case, that's just how you get your players to remember roots. And then saying, all right, what does roots stand for? Well, our rules mean playing by the spirit and letter of how the game should be played. So rules, there's rules on how to play the game. If you stay within those rules, sometimes it's actually better to play within the rules than play outside the rules. Because if you play outside the rules, what happens? You get penalties. When you get penalties, guess what happens? It negatively impacts your game. If it impacts your game in a negative way, guess who has a better chance at winning? The other team. So rules mean playing by the spirit and letter of how the game should be played. So you hear about the spirit of the game in Ultimate Frisbee, meaning that you call your own rules, okay? Did you know that in Ultimate, they get to call their own penalties? They call it the spirit of the game. And basically, what that means is you're following the rules of the game, which are the social rules, which are sportsmanship, rules meaning that you respect people in the field, rules meaning the length of the field. What is offside? What is not offside? You know, if the ball goes out and you see it go out, are you going to, say it didn't, are you going to cheat? So rules. Opponents should be respected as equals. So the O, opponents should be respected as equals. So, they're trying, remember, sport is a game. Sport is meant to have fun. Sport builds character. Winning isn't everything, but you want to strive harder than the other team to win. And I definitely think that is the most important part of competition, is to show the competition that you have been training harder than them, you've prepared harder than them, and that you're going to represent what success looks like on the field. But you are going to respect them as equals, because some of them are doing the same things you are. And if you think about it, have you ever had, and maybe you haven't, but in professional sports this happens, you play against an opponent, okay, for example, my Buffalo Bills, let's just say they play against the Jets, and we don't really like the Jets, right? And then someone from the Jets gets traded to the Bills. Oh, and now all of a sudden we like that player, right? So, you never know who, what opponents might eventually be your teammates one day. And for professional athletes, that can be the case, especially growing up, right? You play in these little leagues and you're playing against, kids around you, against kids around you, and then all of a sudden you're on the same high school team as them, and it's like, oh, okay, they're just like me, I need to respect them. The next O is officials must be shown respect, even when athletes disagree with their calls, okay? So we talked about respecting our officials, and then T, teammates deserve to be encouraged and treated positively, okay? So that would be our roots. We could talk to our athletes about before the game or during practice. We also have Thompson talked about developing and emphasizing the values, beliefs, and traditions of the team, such as repeatedly emphasizing that we are a team that. We are. So always talking about us as a team, we as a team, we are going to do this, we need to do that, instead of this player needs to do that and that player needs to do this. Establish rituals and procedures. So as soon as you get into the locker room, this is what I want you to do. I want you to do A, B, and C. Change out and get out. There should be rules, because what happens if you don't have those rules is the kids or athletes will start bullying and hazing each other in those environments, okay? Especially in the locker room. So you want to make sure that you have rules even for the locker room, right? because that's when the most bullying occurs. So you want to get them in, get them out, get them on the field, have a protocol of what they have to do for their warm-ups, have a protocol for what they do for some of their drills, and then have a protocol on how practice is managed, meaning, all right, you know, gone through the protocol of going in the locker room and getting out. Then you get on the field and you have to do A, B, and C to warm up. And now we're going to go through A, B, and C drills. And now we're going to go through A, B, and C scenarios. And now we're going to have a scrimmage. And then we're going to have a cool down. And then we're going to reflect on our practice. And those are going to be the sections. And so establish those rituals and procedures. Obviously, you'll have that developed as a coach. Use trigger words and actions as reminders for behaviors that should be repeated, such as thanking the passer for an assist and standing and clapping for teammates coming to the bench. So trying to get your players to be supporters of one another, get them clapping for each other. I think, you know, obviously, you know, you tell people to clap or whatever, but it really does get people going when you start clapping for them. Utilize teachable moments to reinforce values. Stress that behaviors such as slamming a bat or racket to the ground in frustration are unacceptable. Okay, so don't just let that behavior slide. Make sure that you talk to your players if there's any unacceptable behavior. Try not to ignore those types of patterns of behavior, otherwise they'll be repeated. Praise the character of athletes publicly. So make sure that you talk about each of your athletes publicly about how they're doing something that is a positive thing. Redefine winning from the numbers on the scoreboard to the effort each athlete puts forth. So figure out a way or establish a way to measure effort or measure, and we really can't measure effort, but we need to redefine winning from the numbers to how much effort they put in. Okay. Thompson, set specific, measurable, attainable, and timely goals. So we've talked about this a lot in many classes, and really have to have specific, measurable, attainable, and timely goals. So if the law of specificity states that if you want to change any type of tissue on your body, you have to apply specific inputs in that area of your body. So if you want a better shoulder, you're gonna have to put specific inputs in that shoulder, and you're gonna have to do that in a timely manner in order to be successful in your goal. Same thing with your players and athletes. They should have things that they should be working on, whether it's physical things, nutrition goals, and also goals on the field, measuring their statistics. Provide continual, consistent, positively reinforcing comments and recognition of growth and character. Show respect to athletes by listening to them. So listen to your athletes more, listen to your students more. Provide opportunities for athletes to teach values to their teammates, as well as praise each other for displaying values. Athletes will learn more through teaching. So allow your students and athletes to teach. You have a chance in this class to teach through your presentations. And like many college courses, you should have a time to lead or teach in that course at some point in time, whether it's through discussion. So I try to ask you all, you know, you each discuss 3 different things. Obviously, if there was more people here, it would take more time up, we would have more discussion, okay? But I have given you both an opportunity to speak 3 or 4 times. And in that time, I allow you to talk for as long as you want. I mean, I wouldn't be like, all right, you know, time's up. If you wanted to keep going or discussing, I would be more than willing to listen to that and use that as part of the content or discussion for the class. Tell motivational and memorable stories that stress values. So, you know, talking to them about something that motivated you growing up, or a memorable story that stress the values of the character you're trying to input. And obviously, we want to make sports fun. Okay, the team approach. See, what do we got left here? So the team approach is another kind of analogy that helps players to remember. character development. So T, teach, E, enforce, A, advocate, and M, model. Okay, teach character by emphasizing ethical values, trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship that can be used to guide decisions to do the right thing. Enforce these core values with firmness and consistency and reward doing right. Advocate the importance of living these core values and encourage character uncomprisingly and model these core values. Okay. We have some more slides here. Josephine's Institute for Sports Ethics talks about trust, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship, things that we've heard before. And then the Champions of Character program of the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletes said the core values of this program include respect, responsibility, integrity, servant leadership, and sportsmanship. So after looking at all these articles and looking at all of the research that looks at character in sports, this is a great PowerPoint to help you build that character or help you build that character as a coach. So a application that you can use for basketball is the Basketball Character and Skills Guide Networks Basketball. So I took a Networks basketball certification course, and part of the course was character development. So as you see here, you have the Because I Can, Big Four. So the Big Four so these are the Big Four: Because I Can, Skills That Build, The Journey, Character at Work, and Shoutouts. Okay, you want athletes to realize that they can, and you're going to have skills that build. You're going to have the journey, you're going to have character at work, and shoutouts. And so when you're trying to build character, skills that build are basically 6 different sayings you can say to your athlete. So hard work pays off. Never say I can't, always say I'll try. So if an athlete's like, I can't do it, they never say I can't, always say I'll try. Or if someone's not working hard, you say work hard, it pays off. Like, look at this guy, they're running and they're getting the goals. Pay attention, play smart, have fun. Share the love, share the learning. Dream big, dream, do the work. And if you're not messing up, you're messing up. So it's okay to mess up. It's okay that if we're doing a skill to build, or if we're doing something as a drill and you mishandle the ball, it's okay, get that ball. Okay, I want you to mess up because I know that you're trying. So if you're not messing up, you're messing up. So you say these consistently during practice. You say this consistently to your athletes. It doesn't have to be for basketball. It could be anyone can do this for any sport here. So these are things that are going to help them build their character. Okay, talking about these 6 things here. And then the journey. You have the athlete point at their chest. Go ahead and point at your chest. And you're going to say, I am responsible for the athlete I become. Go ahead. Okay, repeat after me. I must work like the athlete I want to be. I must work to change, grow, and improve. Okay, and you say that, and you get them to think about that, but you constantly get them to say these 3 things, and you want them to remember that. You want them to remember this too, okay? But this is something that's going to allow them to take the journey. Okay? I am responsible for the athlete I become. So if they're not doing something right, you can just say something like, well, you're not being responsible, or you're not working like the athlete you want to be, and you must work to change, grow, and improve. Character at work. You have attitude, integrity, responsibility, judgment, courage, self-discipline, perseverance, respect, kindness, and compassion. It gives a little definition of each. So these are 10 different character definitions. You could go over 1 per practice with your team. I would, you don't have to go over each one. Maybe you just take 2 from this, 1 from here, and then you make sure that they all talk about this. You want them to be self-responsible. You want them to know that they are self-responsible. I must work to change, grow, and improve. Like they have to do the work. Okay, you can't do the work for them. This is building their character. If you do everything for your students, they're not going to learn. So you have to have shout out. So if I whistle, the students are they're gonna stop, look, and listen. So as soon as I blow that whistle, they look at me, they stop, they look, and they listen. So they're ready, okay? So maybe that's getting them, as soon as I blow the whistle, they'll get in the ready position and just look at me. So stop, look, and listen. You can have them yell that out. Stop, look, and listen as soon as you blow the whistle. With kindergartners and first graders, I'll go hocus pocus. I'll put their knees on their hands and they'll time to focus. So we say hocus pocus, and then they'll time to focus. So that's another shout out you could use. Are you ready? If I say, are you ready? You have to say, bring it on. Okay, so right before a drill, I'm gonna say, are you ready? And the kids are gonna say, bring it on. So I would have them say that back to me over and over. So every time I do a drill, they're ready. They say, bring it on. So it's kind of like giving you some energy, okay? This is tough, okay? I'm gonna say, while you're focusing on basketball skills, I'm gonna say, this is tough. And then I want the kids to say, I'm tougher. So you're building that in their head that they're tougher, okay? Are you having fun? And then, you know, that's something that you want to say. Are you having fun? And they're going to say yes, hopefully, okay? Are you tired? And they're going to say no, I'm not tired. Like, I'm going to persevere. Keep your head up. You want to ask them, and then you also want to ask them if they are tired, but you can have fun with that. Keep your head up. So maybe that is their head's constantly down. You want your player's head to always be up, right? You want to make sure that we can see everything. If their head's down, you can't see everything. Don't quit on me yet. That's something you can say. Don't quit on me, like never quit. You got this, and I believe in you. So these are some things, 10 things that you can say while they're practicing on the field. So all of these is we call the Big Four, and I actually took this straight from the certification from the Networks program, and I've used this for a ton of my classes because I teach PE and I teach a lot of basketball skills, but I've made this kind of, you can do this in hockey skills too. So here we have 11 skills, 10 in challenge, and drills time 10. So what basically around the world is you take the ball and you go around the legs, the waist, and the head, and that's 1. And then you go legs, waist, head, that's 2. And so 10 in. How long does it take you to get 10 in? Okay, so you have to get 10, and we'll see how long it takes you. Same thing for the figure 8. We're gonna have to, so going across 1, 2, and then how long does it take you to get 10? Okay, and then you have drills times 10. It's just you do it 10 times and then you mark it down. Okay, so how many total dots can you get? How many total dots represents how many reps you get. So these are different assessments that you can do. So we have 11 different ball handling drills. So you could think of 11 different drills for lacrosse. You could think of 11 different drills for volleyball. And how long does it take you to do 10 in? Okay, scissors, that's going like this. Okay, crab catch is dropping it behind the leg and then catching it like this. We can go over, I have a whole video on all these skills. And then drills times 10, okay? Just doing it as fast as you can, doing it 10 times. And then if you get it 10 times, you just put the dot down, okay? So you're measuring time here, and then you're just putting a dot for each time you score. And then you do what we call box scores. And then you can see if they can get, let's see, so we have a score key. So under 80 seconds is sweat equals success. 81 to 90 seconds doing the work. 91 to 100 having fun. 101 to 110 working smart. 111 to 120 working hard. And 0 to 111 keep it up. Okay, I'll have to go more in depth in another class because we probably don't have too much time. but I want to go probably more in depth of how this works. Basically, charting to each challenge drill for 10 reps, put a dot in the column to represent 10 reps. 40 reps equals 4 dots. So if you have a dot down, that means 10 reps for each dot. At the end of the program, count your dots, multiply by 10, and put the score in the scoring column. Okay, that's the drills by 10 challenge. And then you have the drills times 10 challenge box score. And you have the key below that. And you also have teachable moments. Okay, so I'll go more in depth in another class since we don't have too much time, but I'll show you a video of what this all looks like from one of the classes I taught a couple semesters ago. But it can be applied for any sport, okay? Kids really like to be challenged on how long it takes them to do it in 10 seconds, and then how many times can you do it in 10 seconds. So counting how long it takes you to get 10 and how many can you do in 10. Does that make sense? So you can measure how many you can get in 10 seconds. Sometimes it'll be more than 10, sometimes it'll be less than 10, but kids really love being timed and being challenged. So it's gonna be it for that class today.